So it's a delight to have David Boen as our speaker this morning. Many of you know him. He has been a UU for over 25 years, first in Clarksville, Tennessee, and then here in La Crosse since 2010. As he says, almost from the beginning, he volunteered being on committees, work projects, community outreach, whatever came along. He has a big heart. He retired from the air conditioning industry in 2018 and then spent a few years teaching at Western Technical College. He's an avid bicyclist, kayaker, theater goer, and most of all, he loves his family and all the joy that they bring. He has 5+ grandchildren from a blended family. He is the current chair of the Social and Environmental Justice team. He most of the time blesses us in the choir. He helps run this building. I mean, David is a jack of all trades. No pun intended.
If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Come, whoever you are, you wanderers and worshipers and lovers of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair, but please yet again come. Thank you for reminding me that this is one of my favorite hymns. About 20 years ago, I sat down with my Singing the Living Tradition hymn book, and I wrote down my favorite hymns, and here's my list. Ironically, the song we sung is not on here, but whatever. Maybe I'll get a bigger piece of paper. Come, whoever you are is lifted from a poem as well as a poetic theme that Rumi, a Sufi mystic who lived over 800 years ago, wrote about. Here's the translation of the full text. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, yet again, come. Here's another Rumi poem with the same message, but different words. In your light, I learn how to love. In your beauty, I learn how to make poems. You dance inside my chest where no one sees you, but sometimes I do, and that sight becomes this art. A voice inside the beat says, I know you are tired, but come, this is the way. I put titles on everything, so I'm going to read my titles. An introduction and overview of the Warming Center. The Catholic Charities Warming Center, in its current form, began in La Crosse in 2011 and moved to its current location on 3rd Street in 2014. Those unhoused persons, and from here forward, I won't say unhoused or homeless persons, I'll say guests. The guests began arriving on the evening of November 1st through the end of April the following year. They operate 7 days a week for those 6 months. The center is open for guests at 7 p.m. and closes the following morning at 8 a.m. There are other services offered after closing. These services include haircuts, foot care, visits with social service folks, and trying to arrange housing. The capacity is 34 guests per the city code, I'm told, but there's an emergency exception when the outside temperature drops below 15 degrees. On those nights, 44 are allowed. There are 44 beds. This winter, there were many of those emergency nights. The UU Fellowship of La Crosse has been signed up as a group for the third Friday of each month for the past 4 or 5 years. 4 volunteers make and bring food, and 6 volunteers stay until about 9 o'clock in the evening to work the various stations in the center. Many other organizations volunteer as well. such as churches and clubs and small groups of friends and college students needing extra credit or experience, and individuals who sometimes pop in at the last minute to see if their presence is needed that night. So who am I? I don't run the center. I'm not associated with Catholic Charities. I'm not a social worker or a psychologist. I'm not a minister. I have no qualifications, no valid reason for speaking about this topic other than the fact that I was asked to talk. But I do try to believe in our shared values, and I'm aware that so often I don't have answers. I only have questions. And here I am. Why did I volunteer to help the homeless the very first time? Let's start there. My cousin Laura is the same age as me within a year. She had a good upbringing, a good education, a good career, a nice family, a nice house, and a good life. And then her only sibling, her brother, died of falling off a ladder. Her mom died of cancer, her dad of heart failure. Her own family fell apart, and her career faltered. She lost the house and then eventually everything she owned. Everything she owns now, she told us at one point, would fit in a box. She got arrested, released, arrested, released. She was housed and lost the housing again. And again, my sister got her into programs, halfway houses, took her to appointments. Eventually, Laura declared that street life was for her. My parents and sister no longer felt safe around her. She disappeared into the large homeless population of Sacramento, California, about 2005. Is she still there, going from shelter to shelter? Living under a bridge, out of sight? I don't know. My life went on, and so did hers. I haven't heard from Laura. We can't find her. Laura, the wanderer, the worshiper, the lover of leaving. 10 years went by. In the winter of, I think, 2015, 2016, a friend called out of the blue and asked if I was willing to help for one Sunday evening at the Catholic Charities Warming Center on 3rd Street. They were short of volunteers, and it was a cold night, just one shift, one time. I shook with fear. Are these homeless people all crazy, drug addicts, disease, criminals? Should I be ready to fight? I said yes. I immediately regretted saying yes, but I showed up anyway. When I first arrived, that very first night, I met 4 other volunteers and the staff member on duty. The volunteers included an older man, a married couple about my age, a young woman, a freshman in college, she said. Not what I expected. Maybe this is safer than I thought. The staff member, friendly and outgoing, pulls me, the newcomer, aside and speaks to me. She says, "Those who are coming through the door are our guests. They are cold and hungry and tired. Show them that they have come to the right place. Don't worry about enabling them. Plenty of people worry about that." That Sunday evening, I was asked to sit with another volunteer at the white table near the front door. The intake table, they call it. The welcome table, I later call it, or begin to think of it. I helped to sign in 40 or so guests that night. Sign in and assign a bed number. That's the first step. And part of that first step is letting them know, if they don't know already, that their belongings will be stored in a locked room and only staff has the key. And there's a hot meal waiting for everyone in the kitchen, and if you want, you can take a shower, just put your name on the list. And if you want, the overnight staff will do your laundry. And do you need a wake-up call? Tomorrow morning, there'll be breakfast waiting for you. And welcome. You are welcome here. After that first night, I volunteered every Sunday that I could during that season. Not because I wanted to help the homeless, but because I wanted to understand my inner conflict. I want her to understand why I can stand up at the UU and sing, "We're going to sit at the welcome table," but yet I didn't want to go so far as to sit at a welcome table. If you have come to help me, you are wasting your time, but if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Today's opening words, "Let us worship," were written by Unitarian minister Kenneth Patton, who died in 1994. He helped guide the effort to hire Frank Lloyd Wright to design the famous First Unitarian Society building in Madison, Wisconsin. He was a key contributor to many of the hymns and opening words we say in our Living the Tradition hymnal. In our opening words, Reverend Patton said, "Let us worship with our eyes and ears and fingertips. Let us worship with the opening of all the windows of our beings and with the full outstretching of our spirits." To me, that means let us worship the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Let's believe in justice, equity, and compassion in our human relations. Let's open our circle and open our arms wider than we thought possible. What must fit in the box? After the intake table, the welcome table, the guests are invited to the tote room line. The regular guests already know, and the first-timers will soon find out that they have to store all of their belongings, even their clothes, in a plastic box called a tote box. We give them cotton scrubs. They look like pajamas to wear for the night. Everybody wears scrubs. The room where the guest belongings are stored for the night is called the tote room. There are 44 of these numbered boxes on shelves along a wall. 2 or 3 volunteers are stationed there. Imagine, if you will, that everything you own has to fit in the box. You, as the volunteer, will need to say to that person who was just evicted from their apartment and had their car towed and found out their credit card wouldn't go through, you need to say that everything must fit in this box. And you need to add, "I promise that I won't let this box out of my sight until I lock the door, and only the staff who I trust has the key." The tote box number is the same number as the bed you will sleep in. Oh, and by the way, the bed that we promised, it's not actually a bed. It's a cushioned chair that folds flat and makes into kind of like a bed. And we'll give you a blanket after you have something to eat. In the kitchen. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, the volunteers are busily serving the scrub-wearing guests plates of food. For many, it's their one hot meal of the day. There's no menu. The food served is what our food volunteers generously brought. Some hot lentil soup with bread, some lasagna, some salad, maybe some cookies. Whatever we have, that's what's for dinner. The kind and open volunteers talk to each guest and let them know to come back for seconds if they want. The staff. The staff at the warming center treat the guests like family. With great, big, generous hearts, they de-escalate, ask pointed questions, give special favors when that's what's needed. They know each guest by name and know their stories. If a new guest arrives and is too freaked out to stay, I have seen staff beg the person to stay and be heartbroken if they leave anyway. The staff are amazing. It's expensive to be poor. If you're broke, you can't afford $1 to feed the parking meter, but the free parking is nowhere close, so you risk it because your work shift begins soon. Eventually, you get a $25 parking ticket, which you can't afford either. And the tickets pile up until they put the boot on your car. And now the tickets have late fees, and now your car is towed. And so you take the infrequent bus or you walk. And you can't afford the 48-pack of toilet paper at Costco, so you buy the 4-pack at double the price per roll. And the bank won't let you open a checking account because you don't have an address. A check cashing store charges 10% of your paycheck. Generosity. There are some acts of generosity that I have observed. A guest is agitated and anxious. Another guest offers to sit with them during the meal. One time, it was 8:30 p.m. and time for smoke break. A guest walked toward the entry area, and another one looks him over and says, "Hey, man, where's your coat?" He answers, "I don't have any cigarettes." And the first man pulls a cigarette out of his pack and offers one and says, "I've got 2. On those bitter nights, when there are more than 44 people waiting to get in, I have seen and heard multiple times a guest already checked in for the night say some version of, "I will give up my spot so someone else can stay here. I have a warm coat. I can sleep in the parking garage stairwell again." Thoughts about nights in the warming center. As the guests arrive in the evening, I find people who are grateful. Some are scared, some angry, some noisy, while others have few words, and we're just glad to be in from the cold. Most are just glad to be in from the cold. Some are disheveled, others well-dressed, some comical and lighthearted, others serious and sad, and then there are those who are eloquent and chatty. In short, I saw everyone like us, but standing on the other side of the welcome table, needing a warm, safe place to stay. For some, this is the worst night of their life. For others, the warming center is their home. I don't volunteer to find Laura anymore. I volunteer because of what our opening words say. We need to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, the anguish behind cruelty. I volunteer at the warming center because them is us, and I need, and I dare say we need, that reminder every day, or at the very least every third Friday once a month. I have some closing words, but before I say them, I just want to say, when I wrote this, I wasn't only thinking about the warming center, I was thinking about what's going on in the world. Most immigrants are wonderful people doing their best. Most ICE agents are wonderful people trying to do their best. Most Trump voters are wonderful people trying to do their best. Here are my closing words. In this dream, the forest is on fire. The forest is on fire all around, flames reaching ever higher. I stand at the edge of that forest, holding a bucket of cool water. There are many of us, each and all, standing and watching the flames, each and all holding a bucket of water. In this dream, behind us are white tables, and on those tables are long, thin wooden sticks, tapioca marshmallows, squares of Belgian chocolates, and sweet brown crackers. It is true, I know as a fact of life, that my bucket of water will not stop the forest fire. It is true, I know as a fact of life, that I ain't no saint. In the same dream, standing behind the white tables are my children, and their children, and their children, patiently watching and wondering what will I do with that bucket? Peace to all. Blessed be, and amen.